A peaceful morning is my favorite way to start my day. Over the last year, I haven't been as consistent with this, but slowly but surely I'm getting back to my roots. Over the last few weeks, I've been a lot more intentional about getting outside, taking a walk, trying to explore the neighborhood a little bit more, and finding that peaceful start to my day. I used to be really intentional about writing my thoughts down so I can get them out of my head and onto paper, no matter how chaotic they may look. I've been kind of struggling with this lately, almost hitting a writer's block, if you will. So anytime this happens, I've been trying to be intentional about getting up, packing my things up, and changing my environment to get a little bit more inspiration. I recently realized how much the environment makes a big difference in how I'm able to think and process stuff. It's kind of funny, I've been in this area for a couple years and yet I've never tried this coffee place. So sometimes by simply just getting up and removing yourself from the current environment to put yourself in a better one, it's amazing how you're able to tap back into your creativity, get your thoughts back on paper, and really be able to move forward where you otherwise might have felt stuck. I don't know if it was the coffee or if it's this shop that just happens to be calm, peaceful, and quiet that helped me get over this writer's block, but I assure you that after visiting here, a lot of my perspective and the course of my day started to change. Today, I've been sitting here thinking about the value of peace and quiet. I was going to do something different for a video today, but seeing as I've been kind of struggling with finding quiet this entire day, I felt like this is more appropriate to go ahead and talk about. All morning, I've been up since like maybe 4 a.m. I went to a couple different spots today, and I had to leave. This is the third location I've been at just to find somewhere that I could sit down and just talk without feeling like there was a lot of noise in the background. First location I went to had airplanes flying over, and I didn't beat them before they came. And they started about 5 a.m., sometimes a little bit earlier, and they happen every like 30 seconds, so it's impossible to film there. And then I went to another location, and there were some people screaming in the background what they had going on this morning, but I didn't want any part of that. And so I came back out here to this park that tends to be a little bit more quiet at this point in the morning, besides the birds and things too. But it just kind of makes me really think about the value of peace and quiet. I lived in the Midwest for a long time in my life, in the Illinois and Missouri area. And it was one of those things where like after 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, everything kind of shut down and it was super quiet, calm, and you could just go outside and just really kind of hear your own thoughts and be with yourself. It is not like that in Phoenix. This place is always loud. For someone like me that likes to have that peace and quiet to get away from some of this like things that feel very overstimulating in life, this is not exactly the best environment. And I think this is why, like, at some point in my life, I'm going to move away from this place. I don't know when or where I'm going to go, but I know that this is not my forever home because of that. And it's only getting louder with more people and stuff, too. When I come out here, this is like the one moment that lets me kind of reset and feel like I'm getting back to a version of myself. I think for a long time, what I was doing over the last few months was I was sleeping into the very last moment, and I was not doing things like getting back out and resetting and starting my morning off in a calm way like this. So what I would do is I'd roll out of bed last minute, and then I would go start my day, not having any time to kind of like relax and stuff before everything started. And so I'd go from just wake up, go right into the hustle bustle of things, and it would just be overstimulating. I'd find myself overthinking and not being able to get to a place where I felt calm, like I could just think clearly about my life. So I've been more intentional about slowly kind of getting myself back to getting up early in the morning. And this is like the first morning that I feel like I've got up around like 4 a.m. and I haven't felt tired. I haven't even had a cup of coffee yet, but I feel great. It's not easy getting up early in the morning for me, but I found that in an environment that's really busy and has a lot going on, this is kind of the only thing I can really do. I can get up in the middle of the night and such, but for me, it's like really nice getting up in the morning, catching the sunrise, and being around maybe some of the few people that have this like-minded, mindset and stuff too. There's some people out here fishing and things, but there's really not many people out here. It's very calm and quiet. Everybody has their own little like pocket where they're hanging out in, doing their own thing. Recently I've been getting back to writing. I've been trying to take walks and things every day, and I've really been trying to do this stuff that forces me to get outside. We're not that long away from the temperature's getting to 110, 120 and stuff out here, which becomes almost unbearable. I'm gonna do my very best to still get outside and talk and do things, but unless I get up at times like this or I do it late at night, it won't be possible. And even if I can make it, my camera will overheat. So for a long time, and all the months that were kind of good to get outside, I found reasons to stay inside and not do things that matter to me. And now I'm looking back at it and thinking we're a couple weeks away from me not being able to do it. And now I've had the idea of trying to get back to what matters, right? Better late than never, but still, it's like I wish I had this thought beforehand. And I think over time, it gets really easy when we get overwhelmed and overstimulated to get away from some of these things that really are fundamental to who we are. I know I'm not the only one that's done this. And so I hope that this video can serve as a message to be able to kind of look inward and think, If you feel overstimulated, if you're overwhelmed in your life, is there something that you used to do that used to make you feel a little better that you've gotten away from over time? Things happen. We all get overstimulated in life and these can be difficult. But I think that when you can identify what that thing is, it gets so much easier to find a path towards getting back to it. And slowly but surely, just kind of like I did here, I didn't just go from waking up at 7, 8 a.m. to waking up at 4 a.m. and I'm fine. I slowly set my alarm like 20 minutes earlier over the course of a couple weeks, to the point where it's not even that much more difficult now. I'm going to sleep earlier, but I also wake up early and I feel like I'm able to take more control of my day. Life can be really hard. I get that it can be very overstimulating. Not for everybody, but there's a sizable portion of us that do feel this way. And sometimes you'll be with a friend or somebody else that likes to be around a lot of noise and things. Sometimes you're with people that like to be around a lot of quiet. Everybody's a little different. It just comes down to what makes you you and what matters. Life's too short to just to do things and live in places and be a person that someone else wants you to be and not being yourself. I think it's important to be you and to unapologetically be you and be happy doing that. That's something that I've had a hard time kind of doing, and I'm slowly kind of working on that too. This channel exists because I'm not perfect at all whatsoever. In fact, most of the things I do well in my life now, I always joke and tell people it's because I've messed them up pretty bad before. And I've learned my lesson the hard way, but I don't do them again. And so in some ways, I think I had to kind of take a step back in my life to see what it was like when I was overstimulated, when I was stressed out, when I had a lot of things going on, when I didn't have that peace and quiet, to really look back and see what the value in having this peace and quiet really was. It's not that I didn't understand at the time, it's that I think I somewhat took it for granted in terms of its impact and how much it really was fundamental to me. So maybe there's something in your life like that too. I'm not here to be able to give you an answer. I don't have an answer for you because everyone's a little bit different. But I think that sometimes it helps to get outside, maybe journal a little bit, just think, put some headphones in, do whatever helps you kind of detach from things and really kind of sit there with your thoughts for a while to see what comes back up. I think so many times now we can get overstimulated not just by our environmental things, but there's so much going around us, scrolling on our phones the whole time, just being involved with all kinds of noise and everything else around us. I think it makes it easier to just get distracted from things and to not really like have that moment to myself. When I was growing up, I'm old enough to the point where I didn't grow up with a cell phone. We had like dial-up internet. If you don't even know what that is, then I'm really feeling old now. It's like we didn't have access to a lot of the things now and stuff too. So when you were bored, you were bored. And what that did was that forced you to kind of sit with your thoughts and sometimes find your imagination and creativity to get out of situations and to really kind of lock into who you were as a person. It took away some of this overstimulus because you were bored, and it forced you to kind of look inward to become, I think, a little bit more of who you were, truthfully. In some ways, like what I've always found myself doing is like when I have a lot going on, I'll have like a show in the background, I have some music playing, I'm on my phone scrolling, doing so much that it's like in a situation like that, how do you ever get to a point where you can truthfully sit with your own thoughts? You don't have your own thoughts because you have so much going on around you that you can't really look inward to ask like what matters to you. It's not just about me getting up early and getting out here when the light looks nice so where I can have some peace and quiet. It's really about allowing myself that space without all this extra stimulus, whether it's loud environmental things or TV and phones and all this other stuff, to be able to truthfully think like, what makes me happy? What do I want? Where do I want to live that doesn't have airplanes flying over every 30 seconds? But if I constantly surround myself by this stimulus, it's like very hard to ever get to that answer. I spend quite a bit of time online, and I just look and I see how people interact and do things and stuff, and I see this common problem. But I also think that people are so tapped in with the online spheres and with each other and with everything else in life that we're more willing to take advice from other people than to sit with our own quiet thoughts and really kind of take advice from ourselves instead. Every single person in this world that I've ever met is way more capable than they ever give themselves credit for. And yet we outsource our thinking so often to other people because we think they know our life better than us. Even if you resonate with my content, I promise you I don't know your life better than you. And even if we sat down for hours, you would still be able to tell me more than I could tell you by yourself. So with that being said, I think it's really healthy to take this moments, maybe sometimes make yourself bored by taking away all the things that distract you in life, and then think like, how do I feel good? Like, what do I want? What made me feel good? What used to make me laugh, smile? When was like the moments that I felt the most calm in my life? Why did I feel like that? Was I by myself? Was I with someone else? Was I doing a certain type of activity? Was I around a big group of people? Was I completely alone? Everyone's got different answers, and I think that one thing that overstimulates someone may be something that destimulates someone else, unstimulates someone else, makes them more calm, whatever, you know what I mean? So it really comes down to you at the end of the day. As I'm still figuring it out, I don't want to say I'm making mistakes, but I'm learning, you know. I try new things out with these videos and I try new things out the next week and eventually I'll find my rhythm. And it's like this in life too. You will find your rhythm at some point, but I think that it's like who's to say you haven't even already found it and you've just gotten away from it. And that was kind of what my case was too. You know, this morning I felt so overstimulated, which kind of got frustrating to a point because it's like I got up deliberately at an early time to try and avoid this stuff, and yet I still find myself fighting noises trying to set up this camera and find a way to make this video in some type of interesting way. Because I did all that and then I came to this park that I've been to a few times, it's like it kind of worked out in a better way because it gave me like a direct contrast of seeing how I was feeling this morning versus how I'm feeling now. It's not perfectly quiet out here, but it is a night and day difference compared to that. And I feel so much more at peace and so much more calm now than I did this morning. I think people a lot of times underestimate how much the small things go the longest way. If you're anything like me, sometimes it's like you're looking for the home run that you can knock something out the park to make a big drastic change in your life to feel better. But maybe it doesn't have to be anything that big. For me, it took me driving 15 minutes down the road to a different environment to completely change my attitude and feel a lot better. It didn't take me overhauling my entire life or changing something huge. It just took me waking up a little earlier and coming down the street, and all of a sudden my problems are solved and I feel better. So I think sometimes instead of asking yourself like what are these big drastic things you got to change in your life, maybe just ask yourself what's the smallest step you can take today. But in any case, I hope you have a great day. Appreciate you rocking with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care for now. Biz.